welcome to Girl Talk. My name is Jessica Jade and I'll be your host. My guest today is Josie Rosario. She's a self-care coach and a therapist. She got her BA from Columbia and she's currently getting her second master's, also at Columbia University, and it's going to be in clinical social work. Josie works with women who, like me, seem like they have it all. Just kidding. No, but women who seem like they have it all together, but sometimes on the inside it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So Josie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming. Okay, so let's get to it. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing and how that's informed your career path. Because I know you've changed careers a few times.
Yeah. So I grew up in Washington Heights.
Okay.
Very humble beginnings, and education was kind of like my haven, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I grew up in, towards the end of, in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And so, my block was hot. And so, there was a lot going on. And so, I was in school and extracurriculars and enrichment programs. And so education was just my thing, and I, excelled at it. And so, when I went to college and I graduated, it kind of made sense for me to get into education. And so straight out of undergrad, I did some work in education, but in government, do policy work. And then I joined Teach for America. I was a teacher for a number of years here and abroad. And then I was an assistant principal at a charter school.
I think I forgot that.
Yeah, and so, education, I kind of it's 11 years, right, in the education space. And, that's just kind of what I lived and I breathed. And so I thought this was my jam, right? It was just like, I'm an educator and education is so important to me and blah, 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 blah. And then I had a panic attack, and it was really scary. It was very debilitating, and it was like a jolt,
And what do you think caused it?
Stress. It was stress, but I think underneath that is just I wasn't living in my purpose. And so
that's deep. That happens. I feel like a lot of people experience, and I've personally experienced that. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm like, I felt that one.
Yeah, it resonates. And so following that incident, I quit my job. I didn't have a plan B. Yes.
Bold.
I was just like, I have to stop. And I didn't know what I was going towards. Mm-hmm. It was just like, something is happening. I don't know what. And I just I need something different. So I quit my job. And I spent a year traveling and just like really giving back to myself. I didn't know that I was giving back to myself. I was just going towards what felt good.
You were filling your cup and you didn't even realize it.
Self-care was not part of my vocabulary then. It wasn't a thing, wasn't a hashtag. Mm-hmm. But I did all the things that brought me so much joy. It was yoga, it was working out, it was being with my friends, just traveling. Literally spent months and months traveling. And it was kind of in that stillness and that self-discovery that I reconnected with my purpose. And that's really working with people one-on-one, kind of guiding them back home.
Right. Doing with them what you did with yourself.
Exactly. And I started going to therapy. The first time I went to therapy, I was like 24, 25.
Isn't it like it's scary at first, but it's like the best thing that ever happens to you once you go to a few sessions. I remember in my first few therapy sessions, I was lying. There's no other way. I can't pretend I was embellishing. No, I was straight up bullshitting. I was lying to her.
And I'm sure she knew too.
Oh, she knew. Because she was actually a clinical social worker. And she was Dominican. She was like your tia who kept it way too real with you, even though she was your therapist.
Yeah.
And I knew she knew I was lying by the second session when she asked me a question about my father. And I was like, this bitch.
Damn. I hate her because she's
I was like, I hate her because she's right. And then after that, when I opened up, it was like a whole new world.
Yeah. And so because I'd been to therapy, from an early age, I guess you can say, and that was just really transformative for me. And this is something that I've always wanted to do, and it's always been kind of just like lodged somewhere in the back of my head. And I just, I didn't have the courage to step into it.
But then you did.
And then I did, and so here I am.
So tell me more about what you believe the difference between self-care and self-love is. Because I know some people sometimes make it seem like self-care is shallow. And I have a big problem with that. I'm just gonna say. Because I think personally, like, you can demonstrate self-love towards yourself through acts of self-care.
Yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think for me, you can't have one without the other, because again, I think it comes back to how you define self-care, right?
Right.
And to me, self-care is, it's very authentic, it's very personal.
Right.
It's how do you get back home, right? Like, how do you really give back to yourself? How do you nurture yourself? And deciding to do that means that you have to love yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not, if you have a very contentious relationship with yourself, self-care is going to be really hard for you.
It's because it's the first step, right? In my opinion, I think it's the first step.
Same.
Sometimes you don't even know it's an act of love or that you're caring for yourself.
Yeah.
Like when you went to therapy or when you quit your job or when you started traveling, you don't realize that. For me, it was advocating for myself at the doctor when I was feeling like shit and would throw up every single time I ate. And I was like, I'm going to be here every 2 weeks till we figure this out. That was an act of self-care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of self-freaking-preservation.
Advocating for yourself is 100% that.
And that's what you're doing. Right. And I think self-care gets a bad rep because a lot of people make it seem like it's like the mani and the petties and the mask. And it could be that. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But it's also doing things that aren't always easy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely different levels to it, I think. And yeah, I talk on my Instagram a lot about this, but you know, our health is commodified now, right? And it's also coming into the mental health space, which is so dangerous because, you know, in some cases people's lives are on the line. And so, you know, I always caution folks that to really just think through why they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
And if it's because you're taking cues off of Instagram, again, I think the world of social media and its power, but is it really authentic to you? Are you doing it because you want Instagrammable photos?
Right.
Or is it because it's really filling you up? So some people, I have a friend, can't nobody touch her hands or her feet. She's not getting manis and pedis. She does it at home. You know what I mean? And so, again, just like really being authentic and having the self-awareness, which I think is something else that you need for authentic self-care.
And for self-love. So now that we're talking about self-care, tell me a little bit about your self-care practices.
So that changes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's also another thing that I think folks are not always aware of, and that I think has been one of the biggest epiphanies for my self-care coaching clients, is that self-care is not static, it's dynamic, right? And if you have a practice that is authentic to you, then it should move with your life, right? And so, you know, when I was working full-time, I mean, I didn't even have self-care practice, but before I started graduate school, and my schedule was very flexible, self-care looked very different, right? I was going to yoga every single day.
Which is amazing.
I was working out 5 days a week, you know, and I was going to Trader Joe's twice a week, and I had the time, right? Now that I have, I'm at internship, I have my clients, I have classes, I have my personal life, that looks very different. And for me, I go to the spa every month, and that's because being in water, I'm a daughter of Yemanya, and so being in the water is just amazing for me. And so it's in my budget, my people know about it, so they keep me accountable, and I go every month, right? Good. So that's one thing. Outside of that, I make sure that I have a very solid gratitude practice in the morning. So before, I don't have my phone in my bedroom. It stays outside of the bedroom. And so I wake up, I read a passage from the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, which is amazing, and I journal, and I pray and meditate, and then I start my day. And for right now, that's what self-care looks like to me. I go to therapy every week. Maybe that's always been kind of the case. And making sure that once a week my partner and I have date night.
I love that. And I think it's really important that I think sometimes people believe that self-care can be selfish in a way, which is absolutely untrue. And she just mentioned one thing that, well, all of them prove that, but the one thing at the end where she's like, I have date night with my partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes being with your family is self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't have to be the case for everyone because we're all different, right?
Yeah.
But that is also self-care. And I think as someone, I'm a Cancer, I'm a water sign, and I just love being with my people.
Yeah.
Family, friends, partner, that fills me up.
Mm-hmm.
Just as much as being alone.
Yeah, and how did you come to know that? Right?
Self-awareness.
Like again, like, right.
Yeah.
Because for some people, being around people is draining.
Right.
And if that's who you are, that's cool. You know, for me, I need to be around people like that fills up my soul, right. But I also need that alone time.
Yes,
I'm just like,
absolutely.
Leave me alone, don't call me, my phone is on do not disturb.
That's me after networking events. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to be home all weekend and I'm going to do nothing that involves human contact.
Right, exactly.
So tell me more about your yoga practice, because I know you have some special events coming up.
Yeah,
I know that have to do with your yoga practice, and I'm excited to join you on one of those. So tell us how you got into yoga and what the event's about.
Yeah, and so I came to yoga. I've always kind of dabbled in yoga, and I was doing it more for like the asana, right, for the physical practice of it. Right. You know, it makes me feel strong and all that good stuff. And so when I had quit my job, took the time off, I was going to yoga again like every single day. And so I stumbled upon Laughing Lotus, which is a yoga studio in Chelsea, and I loved it there. And the reason why I loved it so much is because, you know, the flow was rigorous, but the spiritual part, girl, I mean, it was so much that we call it sweat and cry, because that's exactly what you did in that class, right?
I love that.
And so my good friend Jasmine, who's the person that I'm doing the event with beginning next month, she had gotten her teacher training there. And she was like, you know, it'd be great for you to do this, and really like spoke, you know, wonderfully about it and the teachers. And so I was like, no, fine. I want to deepen my practice. I was not planning to teach. I was like, I want to deepen my practice, and this is it. Like at that time, I was like, this feels good. I had already gotten into graduate school. I was like, it's perfect to do it now before school. And people would say like, oh, that's going to change your life. And I'd be like, yeah, whatever.
It changed your life.
But it really did. It really did, because again, it's just crazy how the universe works, because it really just got me so much in tune with myself, right?
It kind of forces you to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the teachers were just wonderful. And so I did it. It was really hard. I was so cut up. It was amazing from that point of view. But I did it. It was great, and started graduate school, and then I was looking for opportunities to teach. And so it's really important for me to bring yoga to folks, communities that don't always have it. And so I taught at Sweetwater Dance and Yoga, which is in the Bronx. And that was really great, just teaching to people who look like me. Right. And so I don't teach anymore just because my schedule is just so intense that I wouldn't be doing it justice. Right. And so the event that I have coming up, it's a 3-part series. It's called Release, Create, and Sustain, Manifest Your Best Life. And so it's Jasmine, who's a yoga instructor as well, and my good friends. We've kind of come together and to create a workshop to manifest your best life. And so it's part yoga, part discussion. And so Jasmine will be leading us through like a specially sequenced flow that is either meant to release, create, or sustain. And then I'll be leading the group in a discussion around feelings that came up, you know, challenges that are coming up for folks in creating their best life. So it's gonna be intimate, and yeah, we're really excited.
I'm excited for this. I'm gonna obviously put the link here for everyone to see it, but when I saw release, recharge?
Release, create,
sustain. I was like, because there's levels to this, right?
Yeah.
There's exactly levels to manifesting your best life. People forget.
Yeah.
You know? So I really do love that a lot. Now, let's talk a little bit more about therapy. We know how you got into it now. We know why you love it so much. She has an ebook that I actually bought. It's called Healing Yourself. Healing Yourself. And I bought it because I've had so many people ask me like, how do I find a therapist? And they had so many questions. And when she came out with this guide, I was like, oh my God, I'm actually gonna be able to possibly answer some of their questions.
Yeah.
And it was so insightful and so thorough. Can you tell us a little bit about that ebook and why you created it?
Yeah, so much like you, I think not a week goes by that in my DM someone is like, so how do I find a therapist? Can you recommend some people?
Right.
Or some question about the process. And, you know, I know the process is hard, right? I have some strong feelings as to like why it's so hard, right? And it has to do with capitalism and insurance companies and all of that.
Right.
But I said to myself, you know, I love engaging with people that, you know, are followers, just people that I know, talking about therapy, but I really do want to empower people to take charge of their own process.
Right.
And, you know, more times than none, people come to therapy because there's a crisis, right? And when you're in crisis or something is going on, you don't really have the time to like really think through like, who am I looking for? You know, what is the fee? Or just thinking kind of like doing the prep work. And I think that prep work can be really helpful in kind of empowering you and then having you like giving you something to walk into session with.
Right.
And so the ebook came out of that, and it pretty much kind of is like a workbook, and it asks questions that guides you and helps you unpack, why do you want to go to therapy?
Right.
Why now?
Right.
You know, what's important for you in a therapist? Do you want to see a woman, a man, a person of color? Do you not care about that? Is location important? Is fee important? Can you only go to therapy if the person takes your insurance? That's huge, right? Because therapy in New York City is not cheap.
It's really
not. So that's what how that came about, and I'm actually in the works of creating another service for folks that is still on the wrap, so don't ask me about it because I can't tell you. But it'll kind of go to this, which is around helping people access therapists. So
that's
stay tuned in the spring.
And it's so necessary in our community because therapy is so taboo. Women of color, men of color, people of color, like it's the solutions always go to church, which isn't awful, but it's not the solution for everyone's problems, you know? And it's so necessary. A guide like this is so necessary. When I saw it, I was so excited. And now that she's telling me she's coming up with another service that's gonna go with it, it's great. I'm glad. Well, now that we're talking about services, tell us about the services that you're currently offering.
Yeah, so right now, I see clients, that's part of my training, right? So that's one thing, and that's separate. So I'm not available for therapy just yet. Come spring I will be.
Hey.
But so aside from that, I do self-care coaching, and so I see folks for a span of 4 weeks, and we meet over Skype or FaceTime once a week, and you know, we work on your self-care practice. And you know, I have folks that have never done self-care and are like, help, and then there are other folks that are like, yeah, I've started this thing, but I kind of need to like fine-tune it, or I'm stuck. And it's really tailored to whatever people want. And so, you know, some people are writers. And so, you know, for them, the journal prompts are really, really helpful. You know, for other folks, they just want to talk. Right. That's how they process. And so they don't even want homework. They don't do the homework. When I give it to them, they're just like, no, I just want to process with you. I want to talk to you. And that's fine. And so, so I offer that. And then there's another offering that includes yoga in case people want to do the mind-body piece. You know, trauma stuff just kind of like lodges in our body, especially our hips. That's kind of our junk drawer. So if folks are feeling like really tight in their hips, then you know, we want to think through what's some stuff that you're holding on to. But kind of like the self-care for folks that do the self-care and yoga option, then I tailor the sequence to whatever they want or whatever they're kind of going through.
That's amazing. That's so special. I don't think I know anyone who provides a service like that, where it's like yoga, so you can work it through your muscles, because stress and trauma and everything lives in the body.
Absolutely.
Not just in your mind, even though sometimes it feels that way. So that's a beautiful combination for people.
Yeah, yoga is really healing.
It is.
So healing. I love it so much, clearly.
Yeah. So this is going to be our last question. What impact would you like to leave behind in our community, for women of color, whatever it might be? What type of impact would you like to leave behind?
My dream, my life's work. If I had a magic wand, I would love women of color, just women, people in general, to talk about their mental health like they do about their lashes or their eyebrows or whatever is in. That's a legacy that I want to leave behind. That this is normalized, that folks are talking about it. Yeah, I'm Dominican, so obviously, for me that context matters. And I would love that in your typical Dominican household, folks are talking about therapy and about family therapy and how important that is. And so, this is really my life's work.
Well, that's a beautiful message to leave behind, and it's something that I personally can really identify with. I swear to God, sometimes I'm like, Mommy, when are you going back to therapy? And it's a difficult conversation to have with loved ones, because they're like, oh, yo no soy loca. I'm not crazy. I don't need therapy. But sometimes it's, a lot of the time, it's not about that in any way, shape, or form. It's just that you need someone to unpack with, someone with an objective view a lot of the time who can help you work through your shit.
Yeah, and I oftentimes find that, so I get that question too, it's just like, how do I talk to my mom, about this, or my family, or whomever? And I'll say two things about that. One, sometimes, even when you know that someone that you love should, would probably benefit from going to therapy, and they're just like, hell no. Sometimes just being there for them is all that you can do. You don't want to push people, and therapy doesn't work if you're forced there.
Right.
Not that it doesn't work, but it's less effective. That's one thing. The other piece is that, sometimes you just have to lead by example.
All right, so this is really the last question now. Where can we find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. I am a much bigger Instagram person than I am on Facebook, so sorry.
That's fine.
You can find me Josie Rosario _, and then also my website, which is josierosario.com.
And I will put all that information here, of course. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I love to talk about mental health, self-care, and how everything is really intertwined. I think a lot of people sometimes forget that and are afraid to talk about it. So thank you for leading by example.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And thank you for watching the show. We'll see you in 2 weeks with another episode of Girl Talk.
We run the world. Who run the world? Girls.